Football is a team game, and there are 11 players on the field for your team at once. And Georgia's offense looks to be the best in college football, one of the best in college football, whatever you want to call it. And there are 11 guys out there at once. I think there are 3 guys I want to discuss. There are 3 guys who I think are really going to help shape this season for whatever this season's going to be. If it's going to be an elite one, if it's going to be a really, really good one, if it's going to be a little bit of a disappointing one. I'm not saying that it's on these 3 players' shoulders. And no, I'm not naming Carson Beck in this. We know that the quarterback position is huge, and we already know what we think we're going to get from Carson Beck. We know what we saw from him last year. But I think that there's 3 players that are going to be really important for this Georgia football offense. It's going to be important for its success. I'm going to just get right into it. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post talking about 3 dogs who I think, if Georgia wins the championship, I think these guys had a lot to do with it. I think that they had a big season on this side of the football. Before I tell you my first one, I'm asking you to sign up for our newsletter. It's in the link in the description down below. You don't want to miss out. Football season's right around the corner, and there's going to be a lot of content coming your way starting a week from now, because I think we'll be in Dallas, and the SC Media Days will be here, and it's going to be awesome. All right, number one, and this is not a particular order thing, but let's talk about this guy first. Jared Wilson, the center for Georgia, entering year 4. Let's get the official stuff out for Jared Wilson while we're at it. But Cedric Van Pran was a 3-year starter for Georgia. He started every single game from 21, 22, and 23. One of the best 3 years of football that we've ever seen at the collegiate level. All right? And while he was a starter, he lost 2 games, both being to Alabama in the SEC championship game. Georgia goes 15-0, right? It's not all on one player. It wasn't all on Stetson Bennett. It wasn't all on Brock Bowers. It wasn't all on Jordan Davis or Nakobe Dean or Jalen Carter, right? It's a teamwork thing. But having a guy like Cedric Van Pran at the center position was huge. It was huge for Georgia. Didn't miss games. Didn't get in trouble. Was an excellent leader. Was a guy that we saw was voted as a leader all the time. Kirby Smart talked about it after the Orange Bowl, how it was different. It's different because there are more and more players that are seen as leaders as things go on. And Cedric Van Pran was a big one. He was getting all sorts of votes to be the team captain. Even though a ton of players are getting team captain, it was always just Cedric who was getting the most these last couple of years. And then you just think about how important that center connection is to the quarterback, and where the ball starts in their hands and then it gets to the quarterback. Cedric Van Pran did a great job. He earned being a top 3-round pick in the NFL draft, and now he's getting replaced. And that guy is Jared Wilson, and he hasn't started a game, and he's been sitting on the bench for a few years. Well, it's the same situation that Carson Beck was in last year, and now that just gets transferred on to a guy like Jared Wilson, who's been sitting, waiting his turn. Heard some really good things about Jared Wilson in this offseason. We've heard about how fast the guy is. We've heard about how good of a young man he is. We've heard that he's a freak athletically. And if he is a freak athletically, he's more athletic than Cedric Van Pran. Cedric Van Pran was a very good center. He wasn't Broderick Jones. He wasn't Amarius Mims. He wasn't this guy that was like, whoa, I can't believe that guy can do those things at that position. Apparently, Jared Wilson might be that guy. He's sitting at 6'3", 310, right? So not too different from what you're, very similar physical numbers as you got from Cedric Van Pran, but apparently this guy is a more athletic version of him. So there's high praise and a lot of respect for what Jared Wilson is able to do. I'm very curious if he's going to be that good, but it's going to be important. If that position drops off, I mean, Georgia's offensive line is not better in 2024, right? And this is an offensive line that's been very elite. A lot of that had to do with some of that had to do with Cedric Van Pran. Jared Wilson is going to be a big part of Georgia's offense next year. All right, let's go to skill position players. I've got 2 guys. Let's have the Dominic Lovett conversation. And this can be transferred on. This is the one that's a little bit more open-ended. Because it could be any guy, but I think It could be any guy, but I think that Dominic Lovett ends up being the best weapon for Georgia this year in the receiving game. I think that he ends up being the number one target for Carson Beck. That is at least my prediction. I thought that the chemistry was pretty noticeable from the jump a year ago in 2023. I thought he was trying to find Dominic Lovett early and often. Ends up being the second leading receiver, 613 yards, 11.4 yards per catch. He only had 2 fewer catches than Brock Bowers. Obviously, Bowers missed some games and is an animal, right? A freak, a guy who would have had 1,000 yards if he didn't miss those games and was limited in the games he did come back. Dominic Lovett gets 4 touchdowns, worked a lot in the slot. He is going to end up replacing a lot of Ladd McConkey production. And I think that there's just a good chance he ends up being Carson Beck's favorite target. You hear a lot about how he was dominating during the spring and how well he did during spring practice. He follows it up with a great G-Day performance, and he's been around the SEC for a while now. Right? A season at Georgia, a couple seasons in Missouri, now entering year 2 at Georgia, is comfortable in the offense. That was another big point that Kirby Smart made now a few months ago. It's July. That was 3 months ago. A big point he made with Dominic Lovett was how much more comfortable he felt this time around because he knows the offense now. He's not trying to learn all of that on the fly like they were doing in the past when he was a transfer. He's been in this, and he has chemistry with Carson Beck. And you think that things will probably be a little bit better. I think that 1,000 yards is probably lofty because I think that Georgia's going to spread the ball around. This guy could end up being Ra Thomas. This guy could end up being Kobe Young. But a number one target for Georgia I think would go a long way, a guy. And I think Dominic Lovett's on his way to kind of being that guy for Georgia. Number 3, I did a whole video about this guy a couple weeks ago, and this is the most obvious one, but it's Trevor Etienne. Georgia's running game was not as dynamic last season as it had been, and it's been falling off in that category for the last couple of years. I think that Etienne brings a little bit more versatility to the table that Kendall Milton and Daijun Edwards did. Not a knock on them. Those were damn good dogs who were around for a long time and contributed to national championships. But even just what you got out of Kenny McIntosh made Georgia's offense better and more versatile and more dynamic. And that's going to help out Carson Beck a lot. I think that Trevor Etienne can be a good receiver out of the backfield, and I think that that's very important. I did another video about look at what happens when Georgia's running backs catch 500 yards or more. Right? They play better when they do that. And I think this is a year where cumulatively between Etienne and the other backs that they have, they can maybe accomplish something like that. And Georgia loves it. Georgia loves to use running backs as receivers out of the backfield. They believe it's an extension of their running game. Etienne can be good for that. From a rushing standpoint, he's a really good runner. I think he's one of the best runners in college football. I don't know that I'd put him in the top 3 or 4, but he's not too far off from that. Is he on the Quinshon Judkins level, the Nick Singleton level, the Travion Henderson level? I don't know. Probably a step below that, but he's really good. He doesn't have that last oomph of speed, and neither did Daijun Edwards or Kendall Milton. He's a little shiftier. He bounces off people, and he definitely has the home run ability. And he showed all that in an offense where he was constricted for sure. He won't be as constricted with Georgia. And he also won't be asked to do too much because they're going to give Roger Carlson the ball. I imagine they're going to give their freshman Nate Frazier the ball. He looks good to me. You still got Cash Jones, Branson Robinson. If he's healthy, dude can really run. Etienne should lead this backfield. I believe he'll make Carson Beck's jobs easier. And I think that those are 3 guys that are really going to shape Georgia's offense this coming season. I think it's going to be important for Dominic Lovett, Jared Wilson, and Trevor Etienne to have a good season. People are counting on them too. It's part of the projection. Thanks for watching again. Ryan Curley again. Newsletter again. Trevor Etienne, Jared Wilson, Dominic Lovett again. Thanks for watching.